Hello and welcome to Back to the Feature, the show where we talk about movies past, present, and future. Today we're talking about the newest movie from Luc Besson, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Welcome to Alpha.
Valerian is definitely one of the most visually striking movies that's come out this summer, and as soon as I saw the trailers, I was extremely excited to get a look at this. The Fifth Element is one of my just favorite movies. It's just like one of those just kind of turn it on comfort food movies that I just feel like I could watch it almost any time. So I was very excited to see him going back to sci-fi, and especially something with such an expansive world, because that's one of the things I love about The Fifth Element. I love its sci-fi world. I think that still looks great today. So that definitely, for me, was a big hook coming in. John, what did you think when you first saw the promotional footage and images from Valerian?
Pretty much the same thoughts as you. Fifth Element is such a fun movie. It's one of those staples of the 90s. And this is a movie that Luc Besson is very passionate about. It's a comic book he's always wanted to bring to the screen. So seeing those original shots, the movie's visually striking. I was really interested in seeing this film, but I did have my hesitations as well. Just looking at the cast specifically, I don't know. What'd you think?
Well, Dane DeHaan is an actor that I've really liked since seeing him in Chronicle. I think that he has not always been in the best movies, so I think that there was a little fear of that. I did like him earlier this year in A Cure for Wellness.
Yeah, so did I.
I was just saying how I felt like he does a good job of carrying a movie at his young age. My big worry, though, was Cara Delevingne. After seeing her in Suicide Squad being the only thing I'd seen her in, and had heard bad things about her in Paper Towns, or just mixed things about her in Paper Towns, I really wasn't sure what we were going to get, actress, as our model turned actress, that we haven't really had anything that really proves that she can do it yet. So I kind of was really wary about her being the other lead.
Yeah.
But I have to say, after watching the movie, I feel like they were kind of ended up being flipped as far as for my expectations for the performances.
Yeah, so did I. I think Cara Delevingne actually impressed me more than Dane DeHaan in this film.
I think that does, though. It comes down to the writing of the characters, and I think that's one of the biggest flaws of this film. Not to start off with the negatives, but it is definitely something that is missing in this movie. I don't particularly like the character of Valerian, and I don't think that it's necessarily Dane DeHaan's fault, but I feel like that there's some actors that could have played off kind of the more cocky, chauvinistic kind of character that he was. I mean, we've seen other people do it. I think that there was a sense of entitlement to the character that just didn't sit well with me. He just seemed like a guy that kind of got everything he wanted. So as we're going through the movie, it's really hard to root for him. He's more cocky but not charismatic enough, I feel. Where I think you said something like Bruce Willis in the Fifth Element, like he's got that charisma that like even when he does something down and dirty, you still like him. Where Valerian just seems kind of like a cock.
Pretty much. That's the same complaints I have with the film. If you would have plugged someone in with a little more charisma, I think the film would have been carried a little bit better. I love Dane DeHaan, but it's just one of those things. And the chemistry between the two of them, too, is pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was necessarily just their fault. Obviously, there was issues in the script.
Yeah.
But there was also, I felt like, this editing style within some of the scenes with them that just, I don't know, it almost took it out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, when you're watching them on screen, it felt like they thought they were doing something different, and then, in post, things were kind of shuffled around a little bit. That's kind of how I felt.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think that the chemistry was electric. It's not something that I keyed in on too much. I think for me it was a lot of the characters that was the biggest problem, and just that they're supposed to kind of not want, she doesn't really want to be with him at first, and she's supposed to kind of grow, but that never really quite happens at any point. I think that really is that it's just underwritten.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was I don't think they had the even potential for chemistry because there just wasn't enough there. I think it was just very underwritten as far as the characters go. I mean, she had a little bit more to her that was interesting, and at least Cara Delevingne played it in a way that she had some charisma with it. Even if I feel like they didn't work with much, I felt like she was at least in some ways relatable and likable.
Yeah. Playing into it, though, this movie is visually striking. That was to be expected. This movie has some some of like top of the line CGI effects and motion capture. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
And obviously too, it's got so much creativity coming out of the screen too. Just from a creative standpoint, it's really impressive filmmaking from that aspect.
Yeah, the first two large set pieces in the movie I think are phenomenal, and I think the movie is actually quite great up through like that first like 30 minutes of it or so. I mean, the opening sequence where we see the planet Mule is beautiful and amazing, where you're seeing those kind of like water-looking people like on this amazing beach. I mean, these images, and it's wordless for the most part, but you kind of already get like how the society works. I like that he didn't put too many subtitles. He let them just kind of speak their language, and you kind of just got from the inferences of what they were doing. It was so beautiful, so interesting to watch. And then to the world market, I thought was a great set piece, a great like just idea to see come to life. It just sucks that the characters within it we just didn't care enough about. As the movie went on, though, I felt like it was more and more of a problem. Like the first half of the movie, it was like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, you know, hopefully this goes to something, but it just never ended up going anywhere for the characters. So beyond the characters, and I mean, we've talked about the visuals and the how amazing the visuals are. Was there anything else as far as that stuck out for you, positive or negative?
Well, I think its use of practical effects stuck out a little bit, because this is a movie that could easily be just green screen. All of it green screen.
Star Wars prequels.
Yeah, and we see that a lot nowadays too. But this movie actually has there's a lot of tender care in there, and there's some old school filmmaking techniques used, and there's a lot of practical and stage effects and all these different things. I think like costume design was really fun and just energetic. And then I thought all that stuff was fun. I did like some of these supporting actors that just kind of popped up here and there. Some of them I didn't like. Ethan Hawke, when he shows up, I did get a laugh out of his character.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of some other ones that do show up in there. Rihanna I did not like in this movie. And it's not necessarily her fault. I think that whole storyline is just a subplot that goes kind of nowhere. So there is some of those things going on in there too for negatives.
I think you're touching on a negative that I had, and I felt like the plot was very thin for as long as the movie was. I felt like because we visually see so much of what happens in the plot, I felt like the audience was ahead of the characters, and I think that's really frustrating when you're watching a movie where we basically know the mystery, we know exactly where this is going. I feel like it is very underwritten and very basic in a way that we are waiting for the rest of the characters to catch up with what the audience already knows, and I think that made the movie feel much longer. You're kind of waiting for this general character. Okay, we know about this planet and what happened there and who did it. It's pretty obvious who did it from the get-go. So I really felt like so much of the plot was superfluous because we knew this information.
Yeah.
We don't need to see somebody else getting that information and realizing it. At least so much of that. I feel like there was so much of that.
It's overstuffed with those like kind of subplots and like these scenarios that keep happening, which comic books do have those things in them. Like Sin City, for example, even like bringing that to the big screen. You got all these different things going on, but what's going on with the characters, and that stuff just wasn't there in Valerian.
Hearing Luc Besson describe Valerian the comic, and I haven't read it, I'm from France from like decades ago, so I haven't read it. But apparently what he describes is that it would come out as like clips, 2 pages of a comic book, in this magazine. And I wonder if, because there's so many of these like little situations and stuff, that maybe that was just because of the format of the comic book and he was trying to adapt it. Maybe he should have been more flexible in his adaptation, possibly. You know what I mean?
Or hired a writer.
Yeah, somebody that was just able to fill in the lines more, maybe, and maybe just sort of craft something a little more as far as the plot goes. I feel like maybe he tried to nail down the visuals too much, and maybe didn't quite think to maybe beef up this plot a little bit more than what we ended up getting.
Yeah, I will say though, I think he did learn from some of his mistakes with like Lucy. This movie doesn't feel pretentious at all. It's not convoluted with different ideas and themes. It's very straightforward. It's pretty innocent in nature, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like I give the movie some grace. because at the end of the day, it is just like kind of a popcorn feature.
Yeah, it's trying to be fun.
Yeah, it's trying to be fun, and you can see that, and I give some forgiveness for, throughout it.
It stinks that there just wasn't quite enough charisma with the main characters. I mean, I think that's the main problem here. And I think it just highlights that no matter how beautiful a movie is or how great its action set pieces are, it's about characters, it's about story. And I think that's the little bit that it just doesn't have enough of in any of those categories to really propel it to being something really special. Visually, it's definitely something to see, probably something to go see on a big screen. But especially the first 30 minutes of that movie are great. It's actually great for like 30 minutes. And it needed some more just by the end for us to really, really have something special in Valerian. John, anything else you want to add?
No, not really.
All right, at that, then we will get to our final grades and summaries. John, what's your summary and grade for Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets?
Well, we've been touching on it here during this review, but I think Valerian, it's a visually striking movie, but it does have issues with its characters, and at the end of the day, it needed those characters and those two leads, and I feel like maybe Dane DeHaan was miscast. Because the guy can act, and it just wasn't showing up on the screen in this. So, I mean, all those things said, I think Valerian is still a fun enjoyment. It depends on what you're looking at, I think the set pieces are great. It has great CGI and practical effects, and it's cheesy and fun and all those things. So I do give the movie a lot of grace in regards to its bad dialogue and script. And I give Valerian a C+.
Yeah, Valerian was definitely a mixed bag. Definitely, though, if you guys are into really trippy imagery and you want to see something really crazy on the big screen, go check this out in theaters. It will be worth your time for that. At least in the first 30 minutes of this movie alone will be worth the visual treat that it is. Sadly, there just isn't enough charisma in this movie, and I could have done with maybe just a little bit more to the plot, or at least feel like we weren't waiting for the characters to catch up to us. That's never really a great sign, I think, when you have a movie where your audience feels like, okay, when are you guys going to get here? Because we're ready to move. So it felt a little bit overlong for how thin the plot was. So that it's just a script that needed some beefing up, but visually just gorgeous to see. Great practical effects, like John said. And I thought that was one of the big things with this, is a great inner mix, so that they had a nice living and breathing world, opposed to maybe something like the Star Wars prequels. So, saying all that, I'm also going to give Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets a C+. So, guys, that has been our review today of Valerian. I hope you guys enjoyed us. Tell us what you think on this polarizing, visual, possible cult classic. We'll see what happens in this movie in the future. It definitely has some potential in that regard, or at least for something for stoners to gawk at. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this. You can find us on Twitter at Back to Feature and on Facebook at /Back to Feature. Like and subscribe here on YouTube. I'm Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Vanderloo.
And we'll see you guys again next time.
You sure you know what you're doing?
Valerian, trust me.
How much time left?
Your destiny is in your hands.
I taught him how to do that.